extravaganza.
Yes, people, welcome to the LIS podcast. Back for episode 9 now. 9 episodes. It's quite a lot in a way. Depends how you think of it, how you see it. So obviously I recorded the more ramblings last week, not last week, but episode 8. And so to start off today, I wanted to do a little bit of self-reflection, of what I thought of that episode in general. So I don't want to go too long talking about the past, but um, I was, I think I was impressed how long I could talk for without dragging it or forcing it. Well, in my opinion, I don't feel like I dragged or forced any conversation. I feel like there was an element of confidence, but at the same time, there wasn't. So, like, there was confidence in terms of like when I speak and how I speak. I felt confident with what I was saying and how I was saying it. However, like there were times where I feel like there was a bit of gaps, there was a bit of pauses, and I feel like that's due to lack of practice, I guess, lack of practice of speaking comfortably in front of a camera or in front of a microphone. For the yeah, see, like right now, like I think what that last little 20 seconds is probably an example of what I was just talking about based on the last episode. But yeah, we continue. This is a process. Try and make some progress. Get used to speaking more confidently and expressing, and hopefully, my listeners and viewers can see the journey and grow with me as a result in terms of listening. I don't know, but yeah. So that's tiny bit of self-reflection done based on the last episode. I feel like it's always into important. I feel like it's always important to reflect everything you do. Really, just have a look. Sometimes take a step back and just see what's going on. Basically, how you do it. I mean, there's loads of different ways. Not like I could come and tell you how to do some self-reflection, but I feel like what suits you. But let's try something slightly different right now. So, at some point, what I want you to do is to think about 3 things that you're happy with yourself from today or this week, whenever you're listening. But 3 things you're happy with, 3 things you think went well in terms of anything, whether it's your mood, whether it's how you dealt something, whether it's some progress at work or with a project. But think of 3 things that you're happy with that you did. Pause the video, pause the audio, and have a think, have a quick think with me. And let's think together what 3 things we can be happy with. I stopped talking like there was a pause. But yeah, so okay, so I wish I could hear everyone and what they're thinking and what they they they've reflected on. But I'll talk about a couple of things I'm happy with in terms of myself from maybe not today, but maybe the last few days. Um, you can shape it to whatever suits you. If you like to break it down into days and just break everything down and notice the positive things of each day, that's great. If you need a little bit more time, it's entirely up to you. But so what I'm happy with recently, so started running. I've been running for like the last 2 weeks. I think I managed to go on 3 or 4 runs each week. Managed to run around 5K, maybe 4K, 4K minimum, but about 5K. So that's pretty cool. I'm pretty happy with that. Um, so yeah, that's one thing I'm happy with, and we'll talk more about that in a bit. Uh, what else am I happy with recently? Something little. I'm happy about being able to get to work every day for the last few weeks. I'm happy with getting to work, making it on time, getting through the day. Um, being immersed in my job and just being so immersed in what I'm doing and working with my colleagues and working around that the day just goes really quick, so I feel really productive. And obviously I talked a little bit about how I thrive off routine, and I feel like we're at the point where the school year has started, and I'm in a bit of a flow now. I kind of wake up. I know what I do in the morning. I know what I do when I go downstairs. I know when I want to leave. I have most things. So like I'm getting really close to that ideal routine. So that's another thing I'm quite grateful for. And third, I guess like the little things that I do for myself, recording this podcast. I'm happy that I think I've made a little bit of progress over the last few weeks in terms of having some things uploaded, being present on social media. Um, it is difficult because there's loads of podcasts out there and there's loads of things to watch and listen to on YouTube on all platforms, and you know, for the person that's scrolling through on the socials, or for someone that's just sees this on online or whatever, I'm just another one. Do you know what I mean? And so like, so I have to do it. Do I have to do a lot to stand out? I don't know. What I do want to do is be myself and just speak and maybe be interesting enough where people want to listen and hear me out. But yeah, so I guess those are three things that I'm happy with. Happy with in terms of what I've done for myself in terms of making some kind of progress in my life and with the things that I do, and happy just also just that sense of gratitude to the things around me. Obviously, I can go on about the things I'm grateful for, which there are many of, thankfully. But yeah, that's sort of what I wanted to, how I wanted to start off, and I hope you guys watching and listening can think of those different small things, those little small wins. Those small wins, they really count. They're big, like they're bigger than you think because they just build up. Kind of like goes back to like look after the pennies and then the pounds will look after themselves sort of quote. So yeah, I think it's really good to be as grateful as you can for the things, and just take the steps that you need. And if there's nothing you feel that you're grateful for, or there's nothing you feel like you're doing well, there's two things you can do. It's you can think, what could you do better? Okay, now that's easy. It's always easy to think, what could you do better? Ignore that. But it's like, I don't know. This is where it's hard. It's like, what could you do better? Acknowledging what you would like, maybe acknowledging what kind of goals you have for yourself, and what would be an ideal scenario for you, and then looking at what you could do. I also think it's really important to. These aren't things that you can just think alone. I mean, you can, but I feel like if you talk to someone else that you trust and feel comfortable around, you it can go a long way, because having that extra perspective and that outside perspective of what you're thinking in your mind is always useful, because as I said, as I spoke about last week, there's nothing more amazing than when you speak with someone and they say something that never crossed your mind, and that way of thinking or that thought never crossed your mind. So I feel like there's always a lot to gain and to learn from speaking with other people in all walks of life, whether it's work, friends, family, or a stranger you just meet on the street, where however that goes down. But yeah. Um, so a couple things I want to talk about today. Um, First is obviously I think we're still in this new like getting to know each other phase. I want my viewers to get to know me, and as the community starts to build and as more people tune in over time, as I build consistency, which is all down to me, I'd like to get to know my viewers a little bit as well. However we can do that. But that's something we'll talk about in the future. Not talk about, that's something that will be sorted. Ah, yeah, back to waffling. But yeah. So as I said, I started running recently in the last, I think this would be next week coming, would be my third week of going on runs. How can I put it? How's that experience been for me? I went on running before. I've been running before, like around the COVID times because, you know, everything was shut, no sports to play, no gyms to go to, just running. And, you know, we were kind of cooped up inside at that point. So something to do. It was mainly one of my friends. He got really into running, and then he's one of those guys that's always like, not pestering, but going, yeah, do it. It'll be good for you. Just do it. Just do it. Do it. Gave in, done it, and yeah, done it for a bit. And this is like 2020 or 2021. Like both times, yeah, started in 2020, then a bit in 2021, but whatever. Besides the point. But yeah, started running. I wasn't too happy with myself. Physically, I feel like I wasn't in good shape. Maybe I put on a bit of weight. I just didn't feel good. Like I wasn't happy with myself. Not punishing myself, not happy with myself, not making myself feel horrible, but you know, I want to be better. I want to be healthier and things like that. And yeah, in terms of that, so running's been cool. I mean, on paper, like in my opinion anyway, like going out for a run sounds some kind of boring. You're just going out and you're jogging, you're trying to keep a pace, and you know, you're just going around the streets, the park, wherever you go, trail, forest, yeah. But I feel like it's something that takes a bit of getting used to. I wouldn't say I'm used to it yet, but I am slowly starting to catch the bug of wanting to go out and wanting to to be active in that way. Um, I quite enjoy it. I go out with my dog, and so at least it's not a lonely kind of run. Take the long route to the park, do a couple laps around the park, and then go back home. And in that time, I feel like my mind is kind of clear. Like I'm just focused on it's like my body's too busy on like, you know, working and going forward and being feeling those different things when you go through exercise that I'm in a way it kind of clears your mind because it's difficult for me to like be able to think if I'm just focused on running, going up that hill and and going through my path that I'm trying to do to make my run. So yeah, that's been really cool. I've liked that side of it, and I think it's helped my mental health in a way in that aspect. So yeah, that's been cool. In terms of like my relationship with exercise and sport for me personally is I'd say if I was to put it down to one word, I'd say it's yeah, I can't really put it down to one like I'd say inconsistent. Inconsistent, but then if you mind map it a bit, if you branch out that inconsistence, it comes down to don't know, overthinking. It comes down to a little bit of anxiety. Then obviously it comes down to a little bit of laziness, a little bit of justifying excuses, and so on and so forth. Um, you know, so obviously sports wise, I've played mainly played football, played rugby for a couple years. Rugby wise, so football I played like growing up, still play a bit every now and then. Football's cool, it's good running, it's you know, you're concentrating. I think that's the beauty of playing sport. Ideally, not all the time, but when you play sport, you're concentrating on that game. You're concentrating on being in position. You're concentrating on marking your man, or you're concentrating on getting the ball, or when you get the ball, passing it, or going forward with it. You're focusing on those different elements. So, and you're so immersed in that outside extrinsic factors, it's difficult to get in. I mean, I speak for myself. I don't want to speak for anyone else. But I'm hoping that again, that with what I say, whoever's watching or listening, they find an element of relatability and whatnot. But yeah, played football. I think the funny thing with when I played football is that obviously, like every kid when they're growing up, is they want to be in this country anyway, and in the UK, like loads of kids want to be professional footballers. Obviously, I had that dream. Of course, it's a lot more complicated than just that. I can go into how complicated it is to make it an elite sport, but you know, that goes without saying. Um, I feel like this is where okay, so see this is okay, little bit of pauses, a little bit of silences that I need to work on. But yeah, it's everyone's dream to not everyone, but it's a lot of young kids' dreams in this country and around the world to make it as a footballer. I was never that good, so but yeah, how I see it is I I would put pressure on myself. I feel like I've always been like this. I've always put pressure on myself. And I think it's good to put pressure on yourself and it's good to demand the most from you because you want to get the best out of yourself. But I feel like from personal experience, it's like, let's say I wanted to play a decent level of football and then it doesn't go well when I'm just doing a kickabout with my friends. Then it's like a lot of self doubt, a lot of insecurity, a lot of whatever, and I'm not feeling good. But then, like, I don't know, I'd always end up getting obsessed of like just trying to be better and just trying to be as good as I can. And I feel like that is what would trip me up because I'd be so focused on trying to be good at something that the whole reason that you started this and that you do this in the first place is for fun. Like and if you put too much seriousness into that fun, like I feel like that's when you sort of start to I sort of start to fall out of love and it sort of starts to be something that isn't as beneficial, but that all comes down to mindset, and everyone has an individual mindset and way of seeing and perceiving and the world and how they do things. But I'm speaking from me personally, played football, and then when I stopped playing, like I've gone through phases where like I'll play for fun and take it a bit serious, then stop, and it would be the same cycle. But yeah, sorry, I'm just trying to gather my thoughts and articulate what I want to say properly. I might have moments where, however, maybe I'm explaining myself too much in terms of everything. I just want things to be as good as possible. It goes back to, the pressure that you put on yourself. But yeah, I feel like when I stopped playing, because I went as a result of putting pressure on myself, I felt a bit of a relief because suddenly I had no pressure and I felt free, which is kind of ironic in a way because like how am I being free by stopping to do something that I enjoyed initially? So yeah, I feel like the way I get the best out of myself is when I don't care. And the less I care about what's going on around me and just focusing on the moment, the more it benefits me, I guess. But yeah, in terms of playing rugby for a few years, I mean rugby was cool. I played a bit of union and I played a bit of league. Rugby was cool because it was the first time I consistently felt a part of a team and a community, and I started playing rugby towards the end of the like the back end of the COVID pandemic, the second pandemic. Obviously a lot of a lot of rugby guys will know like how the season was it finished and then the following season was cancelled. Talking amateur in the amateur levels and whatnot. But yeah, that was cool. I felt a part of something. I felt like that the boys really had my back in terms of me learning and wanting me around, and it felt nice. I was like accepted, and not that I was doing anything or conscious about that, but that was cool. And I'm talking like throughout my general experience in rugby. Why I stopped playing? I think I enjoyed it the most when I first started, especially in that first season, because as I said, I didn't care. I just didn't care about anything. I was just like trying my best to soak things up like a sponge. And you know what? A player tells me what to do, they give me an instruction, I'll do my absolute best to do it and be a useful player to the side that I'm in. You want me to drop back and run, whatever. Yeah, whatever I'm told, I will try my best to do it. And if I don't understand, I will ask and I will listen. And I think that was what I think that was probably one of my strongest things. Like I would listen. Obviously, there's bad days where I just don't get it or it just doesn't go right, and then, but that's another thing altogether. But yeah, I just felt like if you listen and you do what you're told, you learn more and more. I guess I think it's important to learn from everyone around you, especially when it comes to sport. There's loads of different types of players. There's loads of different types of mindsets, and I think it's good to learn from each one and take a little bit that you think would suit you that could then elevate you as a player and as an individual on the pitch and off the pitch. Um, so yeah, don't want to get into why I stopped playing rugby. I mean, rugby is quite physical. But yeah, started. Well, you can do a smile. Okay. Uh, yeah, I think I started to enjoy rugby less because I started being more conscious about how I was doing and what I was doing, and it goes back to like the little issues I had when playing football. As I keep saying, the more I cared, the more difficult it was. The more I started setting goals for myself, the more difficult I found it. Well, I wanted to go into the first team. Okay, that's not an unreasonable goal in terms of altogether. However, it's like then when things started not going right in the when I'm playing in the second team, it's like how can you think about going to the first team and you can't even do this here where you are now? Like how can you think this and that? And it's like kind of like I punished myself a little bit for having a goal. It wasn't like a it was like a long term goal, like I know sort of thing. But yeah, there was that. And then the more locked in I started getting, I think the less I started enjoying it in a way. Um, so yeah, there's that side of things. And then it go, but yeah, then other little factors, but nothing major. I think I just got to a stage in my life where I didn't feel like throwing myself on the floor. And I didn't feel like running around in the cold or playing in the rain. I was over it. It took up a lot of time, and at this point, I was at work and I was at university, and then it took up a lot of hours in my week, and I wanted to balance. So yeah, but then again, it goes back to what I said. I felt a bit free because the less I cared, but the more I cared, the more difficult I found it. And I don't know, that's probably just my mindset and my way of thinking. And I'm sure there's things I can do to work on to make things better. I think what I do is that I end up biting off more than I can chew. And then when you do that, you just kind of overwhelm yourself a little bit. I mean, yeah. In terms, it's kind of the same with the gym. Like, I could go for a couple months where I'm consistent and then suddenly I'm not. I mean, these are all for the rugby. I mean, the reasons I say it, the rugby playing guys that I know are probably thinking I'm crazy or I'm soft or whatever, but it's all good. Um, I do cherish the memories that I had playing and the many friends many friends I've met and friends I've made. So it's a great experience. And yeah, in terms of the gym, it's sort of the same, but with the gym, it's different. I find it incredibly difficult to go to the gym for a couple of reasons. I don't know. I find it quite daunting. I find it kind of scary in a way. Um, I want to do the exercises correctly. I want to be able to do a squat properly, not have a Wembley arch spine when I'm going up or down, not having my knees going too forward. I don't want to get injured, so I want to do the exercise properly. Oof, hope that didn't make a horrible sound. Yeah, I want to. I want the structure. I have an idea in my head. I don't know. There's a lot to it. Obviously, for me, it's a lot easier if I go with someone. But yeah, there's things that I need to build to. But right now, yeah, okay, going off topic. But yeah, when I go into an actual gym, I really, really struggle when it's busy. I really do. I find it so overwhelming. I'm not a big fan of crowded places in depending on the scenario. But in the gym, what makes it different in terms of a crowded place I don't like is that let's say I go to my local gym and I'm planning to do I'm doing a 5 by 5. I'm doing some squats, then I'm doing some rows, and then I'm doing some benching or whatever combo you do on a five, whatever free exercise combo you do on a 5 by 5. 5 by 5 is an example, by the way. But yeah, I have in my head that I'm going to squat first, and then like I go to the I walk inside to the gym, and the squat rack is taken, and that really really rattles me because like I had this idea planned in my head. I was set in stone, gonna squat and do my 5 sets of squats and however many warm up sets and that and somewhat the 2 squat racks in the gym are taken. Ugh, that completely throws me off. And I mean, this might be linked to my autism, which I talked about in the previous episode, episode 8, where people with autism, we like predictability. We like to know what's going to happen. We like things to stay the same. And then when a slight change happens, boom, your world kind of shakes a little bit. And obviously, as I've gotten older, I've gotten better at dealing with that kind of stuff. But I think with the gym, because I'm a bit nervous about going because I want the workout to go well, when something changes, I find that a bit, oh, my head sort of starts to not spin, but I'm like, well, do I wait until he finishes or do I just do something else in the meanwhile? I mean, I'll move on, I'll be fine. But like, there's just a lot of thoughts and things like that. But that's one example. Obviously, not a big fan of like the loud music all the time and things like that. It can be a bit like, I don't mind loud noise like that. However, it's like when I'm already nervous and tense, like that doesn't help. And then I have the music in the background, and then I'm hearing people working out, or I'm hearing the weights drop, or the machines, and then like it all starts to accumulate. But those initial noises don't bother me. But because I'm feeling a certain type of way about a change that's sort of disrupted what my perceived routine of what I was gonna do, like then the other things I start to feel a bit nervous, anxious, a bit confused, and then the other things that bother me, the other things sort of start to bother me a little bit. Now suddenly the music's a bit loud. Now suddenly like I can hear everyone. Now suddenly I'm self-conscious. Now I'm like, so yeah, I mean, and it goes back to not breaking things down. Like it goes back to taking things too seriously, I guess. And I feel like that's something that in terms of exercise and sport that I need to get better at personally. And I wonder if you guys listening and watching have had any obstacles and challenges to when you do exercise or play sport. Because like it's quite a big change to make to your life to become more active if you're not very active. Or like, it's a big change to join a sports team and meet a lot of people, or it's a big change to step up in your level if you're already playing sport. So my question is, how do you guys feel? What is your relationship with sport slash exercise? What is it to you? How do you feel? What challenges do you face, and how do you deal with them? Or if you couldn't deal with them, how do they affect you? Have a think about that. So yeah, I've been putting off recording this episode for in a couple of weeks now. I mean, it's all good. Like, I do this podcast as a hobby. I'm trying my best not to take things too seriously, like what I've spoken about before, because at the end of the day, this is something that I'm doing for fun. This is something I'm doing as a new way of expressing myself, and this is something I'm doing to meet new people and learn new journeys and learn new perspectives. Which, speaking of, that's what I wanted to talk about today. And I'm quite a cautious person when it comes to expressing my opinion or expressing my views on anything. Yeah, because I don't like to express my views if I feel like I don't know enough about something, because then I feel like I can't give a good contribution as to what that topic is. Like, if we're talking about sports, if we're talking about boxing, I don't know too much about boxing. Stick that on the bloopers. Stick that on the bloopers. Okay. So yeah, I wouldn't be able to contribute to a good discussion in boxing because I don't know anything about it. So I don't want to have my subjective bias be blinded, and I don't want to come across as ignorance. So yeah, bloopers, 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 positive mindset. See, something like that. If you heard that in the background, that's just really bothered me because that wasn't part of the plan, and now it's bothered me because that wasn't supposed to happen. It's a bit funny, but part of it's bothered. Like, as in right now in the second, hearing them bark, it's bothered me. I mean, and obviously they didn't shut up. So like, but that wasn't part of the plan. So now I'm like a bit like, oh, I just wanted to talk smoothly about what I was talking about. But yeah, my point is, yeah, I don't like to try contribute too much into things that I don't know too much about, or things that, or I don't want to come across like I'm someone that's trying to act like they know everything. And I had this conversation. So I had counseling for a year. I've been through a lot of different things, as we all have in life. We go through different things and we go through different journeys. And one of the things my counselor was asking me to give him some feedback, and one of the things he spoke about was that I'm very careful at not trying to offend him in terms of the feedback I give or how I give the feedback. And he was like, that's a skill. And at the same time, that can hold you back, that can limit yourself. Because if you're limiting yourself, if you're limiting your expression, you're not going to feel as good because you're not saying what you want to say. Like, I feel like it's important to not limit yourself, and limit, especially when it comes to expressing yourself, expressing how you feel about something, expressing your views on anything. So at the same time, it's a skill because I'm trying to be empathetic. I'm trying to be understanding and constructive. I mean, I wouldn't like if someone said some not so nice things and gave me bad feedback. But like, I'd like if I was to get feedback about how I could do things better, whether it's with this podcast, whether it's anything I do in my life. I feel like as a human being, like you'd want things to be said nicely to you. So yeah, so I wanted to talk a bit about perspective and perspective and perception. Um, they kind of sound like they're similar words, but they have a slightly different meaning. And what I'll do is I'll put the definition up for perspective next to me in front of me for the video viewers, and I'll put definition for perception. But from memory, I did look it up before going to record this. However, uh, I got I forgot. But perspective is see, you know what? Let's scrap that for now. I think perspective is how we see the world, and sort of influenced by the decisions we make and stuff like that. I don't know. Perception is more sensory. It's to do with how you feel. There's more to it. This is why I'm so scared to speak about things. because I don't want to come across like an absolute idiot in terms of like I'm trying to say something and then I can't even back what I'm saying with knowledge. And knowledge, I feel like, is in a way it's like the minimum you need for for trying to express something. Even having the knowledge of being able to express it and express your opinion based on the knowledge, or having or seeking the knowledge that you want to learn from someone else. But yeah, I feel like there's a lot of things about I've come across and read about, watched a few videos about like perceived reality. The world isn't what we see, the world is what we make it in terms of like how we see things. And we are a result of our memories and our experiences. The way we see the world, the way we are, is because of how we were brought up, or how we were raised, or the things that we've gone through, the culture that we come from. And it's a big shape, it's a big shape of like our lens of the world, I guess. I mean, and I feel like it just has a big impact on how you do things and the decisions you make. So if we talk about sport a little bit, I'm going into like some old school sports psychology stuff that I learned at uni. I think it's called the achievement goal theory. Um, don't remember who came up with it. Not great for the scholars and the studious people that read into that stuff, that might be thinking what an idiot. But there was two things that came out from the achievement goal theory, or there's two things that I know of that are from it. It's task orientation and ego orientation athletes. And obviously you've got the task orientated people that are more focused on improving, getting better at the sport they're doing, getting better day by day. And their 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 satisfaction comes from self improvement in the sport. Whereas you got ego orientated who are motivated by winning and motivated by coming first and beating the records and whatever it is. And I mean, I feel like it's quite two dimensional to say that these are the two forms of motivation, and different athletes fall in different ones, and you're either this or that. I feel like there's a lot more to it, obviously, and it's an older study, so I'm sure that there's been plenty of updates. But it got me thinking about, like, if we're talking from an elite athlete perspective, it's like when you lose, if you're one of the best athletes in the world, that or one of the better ones in the world, but you lose in the big stage, like, isn't perspective and perception everything? Like the way you see the situation, because either you can lose and your world falls apart, everything you've worked for is for nothing because you didn't come out on top. Everything you've trained for, all the hard work you've did, all the everything, that one opportunity, and it's done, and you're not happy with that. However, then there's the other perspective of, well, I've done well to make it all the way to this stage. I should be proud. I've made so much improvements in this time. I can do it again next time. Or if it's the last opportunity for you to do it, I've done everything I can. It wasn't to be, but I can be proud of the effort I've made. I mean, those are just two different perspectives that I've just come up with by myself. But how do we bounce back? How do we do things? Like, I've always linking, this is just, this is just a bit of a sporting example. I mean, what I've just spoken about, maybe you can implement it to yourself, or you could think about an athlete that you've watched, or an athlete that you know, and get an idea. Put the put what I've spoken into your own thoughts, and develop it even more with how you think. We are creative minds. I think that's the beauty of the human mind, but it's also the hindrance that we're creative. We can think. There's so many things we can think about. There's so many ways we can look at this world. and so many ways we can do things. So, but at the same time, because there's so many ways of thinking and doing things, like it's easy to get carried away and then to lose sight of reality because you're thinking around everything else. But I think perspective, perception, like what I've learned recently is that everyone is different and everyone's world is kind of individual in a way. Agree with me or disagree with me. This is how I feel. If you disagree with me, I'd love to know why and I'd love to learn from it because there's always something to learn from someone. So feel free to comment down or to message me on the socials about if you're disagreeing with anything I say. I'm more than happy. I'm all ears. I'm more than happy to listen, learn, and develop. But yeah, ah, gosh, back to the little pauses and forgetting what I was gonna say. But yeah, perspective. Yeah, we live our own perceived realities. As I said before, upbringing, experiences, memories, cultures, whatever, they influence how we see the world. They influence our moral values. They influence how we interact with people. And yeah, I think it's such a I just feel like if you speak with someone, it's not that and their opinion or their way of thinking or their the way they see life is different to yours. No matter how wrong or how much you disagree, how wrong you think they are, or how much you disagree with them, or how much whatever you think of them is, um, that is how they see the world, and that is their perceived reality, and that is what is real to them. And I feel like there's so many people on this planet, so there's so many ways of thinking. I mean, the way that there's individual fingerprints, there's individual ways of thinking. So what is reality then? Is reality what's in front of us, or is reality what we is reality what our brain constructs, and then what we see in front of us is what our brain constructs of what reality is, if that makes sense. I think there's so much to it, and but I feel like if we're going on this kind of model of that, yeah, we have our own perceived realities and our own perspectives of how we react to things, then it's like, let's say that that's how it is. I'm sure like a philosopher here, a philosopher would hear this and think, "Geez, there's way more to this. It's way more complex," which I agree. But I'm just speaking from what I know and what I understand and what I've learned. Like, isn't it great to broaden your horizons? Isn't it great to broaden your ways of thinking and your ways of reality through speaking to other people and through trying to understand why they think a certain way, whether you disagree with it or not, whether it resonates with you or not? Because yeah, um, sorry, I just need a second. I feel like I've just said a lot. You know what? I feel like compassion and empathy is a massive thing, and it's a massive contributor to your self development. I believe that's my reality of what I think is real. I think it's so important to be empathetic because you can understand how someone else thinks and feels, and that can open up a new perspective. And then that can maybe shift how you look at the world slightly. Like, it sounds a bit extreme, what someone thinks different, and then you're empathetic, and now you see the world. Not quite, but my point is that there's a lot you can gain from speaking to other people and just being open minded that everyone is different in the way that they think. I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot. But yeah, don't know, that's a bit of a mouthful. I feel like I've spoken a lot, but I think perspective as well is you got like the glass half full or half empty kind of perspective. Neither is wrong. They're both correct. The glass is half full and half empty. Obviously, I can go, it's how you choose to see it, which, yeah, to a certain extent it is. But then it kind of depends. It goes back to my point of we are a result of our experience and memories. Is our experience that we had nothing and the glass, and then we made a bit of progress and the glass filled up? Or did we have a lot and we lost some of it? Did we have a full glass and then we spilled some through our decisions and our actions? I feel like there's a lot more meaning to what to how we see things and how we look at the world. And I don't know, this could sound like a whole load of rubbish, but I just really, really wanted to share that my thoughts on those things. I've been as I said earlier, I've been putting off this episode for a couple days, like in terms of the recording, because I'm constantly researching. I want to say the right things. I want to get more ideas. I want to read something that changes how I think, and then maybe I can express it better. And I've come, and it's just more bloopers. But yeah, tired myself out. You know what? If I'm being honest with myself, I've today particularly, I felt a bit anxious. I felt a bit just overthinking and a bit you know, just a little bit more vulnerable. And maybe it's better to sit down and record with a clear head. Um, I wouldn't say I'm in a bad way or whatever, but yeah, sometimes I just feel like the weight of the world is on my shoulders and gets a bit heavy. But then, what benefit do we get from letting that push us down to the ground and stuff like that? I think it's great to like be able to acknowledge your feelings, positive or negative, and try and understand them. And it's okay to feel those things. I think it's okay. It's perfectly okay to be anxious and to understand that you're anxious. It's just how you deal with it. I mean, anxiety comes from a lot of different sources, whether it's situational or whether it's just how you are as a person or whatever. And yeah, I've been feeling a bit like that today. So maybe, but I'm trying to have the right perspective of how I feel and understand and get through it and be able to come out more positive and more strong and more resilient. I mean, as I said, I've gone through my things and everyone goes through their things and everyone has their demons and the things that they find difficult. And yeah, but what good does it do to sit down and feel sorry for yourself and let that swallow you up? I'm not saying like, I mean, we're only human. It's okay for things to affect you and to feel emotional and to feel like you can't deal with it. I felt like that plenty of times. My back's against the wall. I don't want to leave my house. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. I just want to give up. But and I think it's good to get to that point because yeah, maybe I sound like a cheesy motivational speaker. That when you're down, like you can't get any lower than that. When you're rock bottom mentally, you can't get any worse than that. So anything you do to go forward is a constant improvement, right? I mean, it's a fine balance because there's having the strength to continue going and to keep it up, And then there's the being sensitive to yourself or sensitive to others, and understanding that they're going through a difficult moment. So yeah, I feel like I've said a lot. Maybe one day I'll talk about the things I've gone through and how they've shaped me. Don't feel ready to share things like that yet though, but things can affect you, things shake you, and it's normal to be pushed down, but I think it's good to acquire the strength to be able to get up. And I say this like I'm a strong guy and stuff like that, and I'm completely resilient, but I'm not. I have my moments. I break down. Sometimes I feel like giving up and just not doing anything. Fuck it. But, you know, takes practice. Maybe I've had to go rock bottom a few times to find different ways of getting up and different ways of staying up. It's all practice. I feel like everything we do, we practice. We practice the way we communicate with each other. We practice the way we practice playing our sport. We practice with everything is practice and repetition and trying different ways that suit you. So, well, like it's okay if you go rock bottom and you get up, and then maybe you slip back down again, but then you find another way to get up, or maybe you use the support of someone else and they help you up. Like there's so much to it, and but at the end of the day, you're never gonna benefit if you stay rock bottom. But there's always ways to get up and to move forward, and you will keep finding those ways based on your experiences, based on how you are, based on how you feel, and based on the people around you. And I'm sure there's much more to it, but yeah, maybe like I think I've gone a bit too deep, and I've started talking too much about things. But I did want to share that kind of side of things, and just another conversation with you guys about how I see the world, and how I see the world is a chance for you to get to know me, I guess, a little bit. Um, but I think this is where I'm gonna call it. How would I rate this episode going? I mean, there was a couple things that weren't ideal, like the dogs barking and whatnot. Few pauses, a few stutters, but we keep practicing, we keep learning. Practice is everything. We practice everything in life. You you don't know how to walk. Let's not get into that. But yeah, you never, you never, you might naturally be good at something, but there's always constant practice at improving it. Whether it's social skills, conversation, walking, exercising, practicing a sport, practicing an activity. But now I'm getting ahead of myself and waffling too much. However, always a pleasure to get in front of the microphone, in front of the camera, and speak with you guys. And I hope we can continue to do this, and I hope you can continue to learn about me, and we can build this community. I'm more than happy to speak with anyone, so never hesitate to DM on the Instagrams or TikToks or whatever. And yeah, but like, subscribe, share, comment, and yeah, this has been me, T, Tarek. I didn't even introduce myself at the start. Goodness. But yeah, it's been me. Like, subscribe, comment, and I will see you soon. Big love, people. This has been it. Subscribe to LIS podcast. Yeah. I'm kind of blubbering now. Maybe some more reflection to look at for the next episode.